Alright, we've got a character pitch horror story. Been a while since we've had one of these. What could go wrong? From Red Redacted. Divine Soul Sorcerer is a fledgling god that somewhat recently just popped into existence and knows very little about anything. So, of course, they gain power as they level up. Sorry, I was at a very exhausting wedding all day yesterday, so I passed out as soon as I got home. I don't know about fledgling god. Maybe like the child of an archangel or the soul of someone who is destined to be an angel in service to a deity. Alright, I'll figure something else out. I'm very particular about my divine soul sorcerers. You know, in earnest, this has kind of soured the whole thing for me. I don't think I'm interested in being part of the campaign anymore. Because I wouldn't let you be a god? You know, we've seen Mary Sue characters. Hell, we've seen fledgling god characters before. At least this guy was upfront about it. But honestly, the DM saved this guy a lot of trouble. I mean, have you seen The Road to El Dorado? It's tough to be a god. But I guess this guy's gonna have to wait a while to fulfill that heavy responsibility. Especially with that, unique character pitch. I'm not really sure how else to convey how bad of a player this guy was, so I'm just going to list it all. Keep in mind that this is over the course of almost an entire year. Also, we play over Discord with Roll20 and Tailspire, posting from mobile, so hopefully the formatting stays intact. Out of character problems. Number 1. Always playing League of Legends. We have a group policy that doing something mindless, such as mining in Final Fantasy XIV, is fine, but League is not mindless. 2. Taking forever to respond every time he's addressed or on his turn in combat. 3. Cutting in all the time when he wasn't being addressed or when it's not his turn in combat. 4. People talking, screaming loudly in the background of his mic. 5. Would never mute his mic unless we reminded him to specifically. Led to many interruptions due to point 4, as well as his rapid clicking from point 1, you know, the League of Legends thing. 6. Rarely paid attention to what our DM was telling him. 7. General main character syndrome. 8. Asked to move game day back to Saturday after the entire party changed their schedules up to make Monday's work due to his job. Saturday was the day for the first campaign. 9. Never rolled on Roll20, consistently used D&D Beyond despite never being told he could and the DM saying only to use Roll20 at the time. 10. Frequently joined from his car or from locations like festivals where we couldn't play properly and his lag caused serious disruptions. In-character things he did over the course of the entire campaign. 1. Almost got an important NPC kill to get a Triceratops mount. This Triceratops is important later. 2. Took the group on a side quest for a special rapier that he proceeded to forget about until I would remind him about it. 3. He let a Dalcor possess him right after one of the other party members narrowly escaped from a Fey demiplane. My monk knocked him out for his own good. 4. When our bard was about to diplomatically win over the big bad evil guy, he decided to walk right up and end up triggering aggression. 5. He got said bard killed by trying to put him on the back of the Triceratops when the bard was on 2 death saves and failed to check, thus killing the bard. 6. Triggering the BBEG's fight also got my monk's adopted child killed, ruining her life considering he was all she really had left by the end of that campaign. Over the course of his time in Campaign 2, which was only 3 sessions, he 1. Never showed up to planned sessions, 2. Was always late with no notice, and 3. Missed days with no notice, and when he did give notice, it was last minute. 4. Changed character mid-game even though he claimed he was just always a sorcerer. We all heard him confirm he was a wizard, but he claimed he always corrected the DM even when no one else heard him say anything. This is gaslighting. 5. Repeat of Campaign 1. Always put the party in danger. Never was thoughtful of our characters. 6. Started 2 storylines. Temple and job to pay for money that he owed for food, then completely forgot about both of them. 7. His character never shared important items with the rest of the party, leading the party to be unable to continue the quest because he had the key to the inn and the temple that revolved around him. In hindsight, we should have kicked him way back, but he was our friend and each incident was dismissible on its own until the gaslighting and then it all came into focus. Thankfully, the group was able to bond over this and we're still having fun to this day. We should really have some sort of Smash Bros cinematic for this because, I mean, truly everyone is here. The whole gang. We've got scheduling issues. We've got main character syndrome. We've got a dude that's gaslighting the party, though it's not the worst gaslighting we've seen in RPG horror stories. Stories. Unfortunately, it is still bad to just straight up lie to your party, especially about something so strange. Why didn't the guy just say, oh yeah, I made a mistake, I wish I was playing Sorcerer, can we just change the class? Like, that wouldn't have been a big deal, especially so early in the campaign. Why lie about it? The thing that really pissed me off was that scheduling thing, though. Asking the group to change the day back to the original game day after they adjust their work schedules to fit around you is just ridiculously bad. That would irritate me to no end. Kicking someone from the game and confronting them about this kind of thing, that can be really hard, and especially hard when it is your friend. But in situations like this, it certainly is warranted. In the background, last week we did the story of Aladdin the Paladin, and a bunch of you guys, and I mean a bunch, made sure to inform me that there is a sequel, so since so many of you requested, I am happy to oblige. After the tragic death of Aladdin the Paladin, we continued our campaign. DM, have you rolled up a new character? Raladin, yes, here's the sheet. DM took a brief look over it. Are you serious about the name? Sorcerer gets curious and takes a peek at the sheet. He informs us out of game that the new character is called Raladin. Well, I thought Rogue would be a good idea since nobody was able to disarm the traps in the last dungeon. Alright then, the party returns to the Wizard Patron's Tower in order to explain that they failed their quest because a certain paladin dragging them into this bad crime drama. They realize that a failed magical experiment has turned the wizard into a talking squirrel. He needs the party to gather new ingredients for a ritual to transform him back into human form. He doesn't mind them failing their previous quest and is willing to pay them some more so that they can hire a replacement for Aladdin. So the party heads out to the next tavern to recruit a new member, and so we introduce our quote-unquote new player character. You see a mysterious hooded figure rise from a dark corner of the room and slowly approach you. I will join you on your quest if you're willing to pay. Well, I say since no one else here seems interested, and we have a wizard to rescue, I guess you're our only choice, stranger. I'm Darianos of the Forest. Who are you? My name is irrelevant to you, but I'll help with your wizard problem. I sigh and roll my eyes, but I want to get back to the adventure, so I grind my teeth. Alright, Irrelevant, it's a pleasure to meet you. The monk pipes in. Welcome to the party, Irrelevant. You seem very trustworthy. With their trusted new ally, the party leaves town and searches a ruined labyrinth in a nearby forest. After some dungeon crawling and fighting, the party secures the ingredients they were looking for. Minotaur horns. Monk even finds a nice magical sai, which counts as a monk weapon. On their trip back to town, the party takes a rest for the night at the banks of a river. Raladin, I will be taking first watch. I throw a worried glance towards Monk and Sorcerer. That's fine, it's irrelevant. I'll take second watch, Monk says. The DM starts his monologue. Night sets in. Everyone but the rogue goes to sleep. Raladin. Once everyone's asleep, I sneak towards Monk. That's a 24 on stealth. I use coup de grace to kill him! Monk. I stick my sai right into his face. DM, since you prepared for that attack, Monk gets advantage. What? I have 24 on stealth, and he's asleep. DM puts a piece of paper on the table. It's a note Monk passed to him in secret. Monk was so stealthy about it, Sorcerer and I had no clue he did this. DM, Monk states here clearly that he prepares to attack anyone who sneaks up on him with his sai after he lies down. If you're waiting for exactly this situation, a 24 on stealth means nothing. Raladin suffers heavy damage from Monk's new sai. Raladin, I attack him back! The rest of the party awakens and soon realizes that they're in the middle of PvP combat. What's up with this nonsense, I say? Why are you attacking our friend, Irrelevant? My name is Raladin, and I'm here to avenge my brother, Aladdin. Wait, wasn't Aladdin given to a paladin order as a baby by his rhyming bard parents? Well, yes, and they gave me away to a thieves guild to balance out their karma. They were true neutral. Now I try to reconnect with Raladin and find out he was betrayed and left to die by his own party. I don't know who told you this, I say, but that's not quite how it happened. Lay down your arms and we can talk about this. I attack. The already heavily injured Raladin is quickly killed by a very satisfied Monk. You would not have won without metagaming, you jerk! It wasn't metagaming. Why would my monk, with a wisdom of 18, trust a creepy-looking stranger who wouldn't even give him his name? And this, shortly after my monk got killed and looted by the last weird psycho stranger he joined up with. It makes total sense for him to be a little paranoid. That's bullshit! The rest of the group agrees with Monk, and Raladin's body gets thrown into the river to feed the fish. Okay, Raladin, please roll up a new character, the DM says. This time, look, I'm just trying to make this clear. You're not allowed to create any more relatives, friends, hired assassins, or any other characters with any connection whatsoever to Aladin or Raladin. Are we clear on this? So ends the equally short, but equally annoying life of Raladin, the non-paladin. But it's not the end of this campaign's ongoing horror story. Please let me know if you're interested in the last and final part of this RPG nightmare. Feel free to take a guess about what will happen in part 3. Will I be reading part 3? I don't know. If you guys want it enough, I will. But honestly, look, the story is really fun. It's really well written. It's great. But I will say, guys, this is not the way to solve problems like this. The group clearly, at least from what I can tell, do not like playing with Raladin/Aladin. This player is obnoxious, he's rude, Monk clearly doesn't like him. If you need a reminder, Monk threw a book at him and they just moved on, I guess like it was nothing. I get it, we just talked earlier about how hard it is to kick friends, but as I've said many times, the best solution to out-of-game problems like Raladin/Aladin being an obnoxious dick is never in-game solutions. It's almost always talking about it out of game, talking about it above table. Though, I will say, to be fair to the group, it does look like this happened over the course of 2 sessions, so maybe there is a little bit of leeway there. This isn't like an extended period of time for what I can tell. I grew up in an overprotective Catholic household. Because of this, D&D was not an option, as my mother saw it as evil and satanic. As I grew older, I was still interested in learning how to play D&D, but didn't know anyone who played. Then, I went to college. I met some people during my first semester and developed friendships with them. One of these friends, Grant, mentioned one day how his buddy Maxwell was starting a campaign and was looking for some people to join. I told Grant I was interested, and the session began a month later. Keep in mind, I had never played D&D before or knew anything about basic gameplay, so I didn't know that this campaign was complete BS. Every day, myself, Grant, and the 2 other guys would meet in the common room of the 4th floor of one of the dorms to wait for Maxwell to show up and DM. Maxwell was always late to his own sessions. Why? Because apparently, a month before, someone had managed to attach a Chick-fil-A sandwich to the ceiling of the 4th floor men's bathroom. Maxwell was always late because he had to check the bathroom before the session to see if the sandwich was still on the ceiling, and every session, he'd enter the room with the same greeting. Guess what, guys? The Chick-fil-A sandwich is still on the ceiling of the 4th floor men's bathroom. It could still be there to this day. I don't know if it is because I haven't talked to Maxwell since this campaign, and I've had no one to update me. Anyway, Maxwell started off by giving us character sheets to fill in, and then started the session when we were done. I should point out that the only people who knew how to play D&D in this campaign were Maxwell and Grant, a player. And Grant knew more about D&D than Maxwell did, so they often butted heads. The main reason Grant had such a problem with Maxwell DMing is because the party would get killed every session. We would create our characters, go on a quest, play for 5 hours, and then we're eaten by wolves at the end of the session. It didn't matter if we defeated the enemy or completed the task before the session ended. No matter what, the session would always end with us being eaten by wolves, and we'd have to build new characters and start over again the next time we met. Myself and the other 2 guys thought this was normal because we had never played D&D before, but we did think it was weird that Grant was always somehow killed almost immediately during each session since he was the most knowledgeable one. Grant was even loaning Maxwell his own books to help run these games, and Maxwell still made sure Grant got killed early on. Maxwell always made sure I was the last to die, probably because I was the only girl and he thought I was pretty or whatever. Grant stopped playing after 3 sessions, which meant the campaign had to end because he took his books back from Maxwell. I was kind of bummed when it ended. Until I told this story to my new group of nerd friends who play D&D, and they were all like, yeah, Maxwell's a bad DM. That is definitely not how you play D&D. They're going to start a campaign soon, so I'm glad I'll have a chance to play D&D the way it's supposed to be played. I haven't seen Maxwell since his campaign ended. Grant actually turned out to be a jerk, and we don't speak anymore, so it's not like I can ask him. I sometimes wonder what happened to Maxwell, but I guess I'll never know. Maybe he got eaten by wolves. We often talk about how D&D is a very subjective game. All that matters is that the table is having a good time. If you're having a good time, you're playing D&D right. The only way to play D&D wrong is if you're not having fun. With all that being said, Maxwell definitely has an interesting style of running games. Why he sends wolves after the party after every session, I have no idea. I don't know why he instantly kills the experienced player. Maybe he and Grant have some kind of beef. But remember, when we think like that, we start delving into the what is true dimension. And we definitely don't want to do that. If we're being honest, the most accurate explanations are often the simplest ones. Maybe Maxwell was simply a DM who wanted to watch his players burn, to be consumed by the wolves of his own making. But we'll never know. I am kind of curious why Grant turned out to be an asshole. What did he do? Was it like game related? Probably not. Anyway, let's move on. I've always been interested in running tabletop RPGs since my middle sister tried to run a campaign for my older sister and I. Since then, I was invited to 3 single sessions, but never really got to play. So when a former coworker asked if I wanted to join a campaign he was running, I was all for it. I finally would get to play D&D properly. I was stoked. I wish I'd known why he invited me at the time. He strongly recommended I play a paladin for an ambiguous reason. I gave it some thought, but chose to play cleric instead. I was going into a group of longtime players completely green to the game. At the very least, I could try and be a helpful new player. I played a half-orc with a heart of gold. At the time, I thought I'd have the 5th edition Relentless Endurance, which for me meant I could get up and keep healing the party. As it turned out, we were playing 3.5. Okay, fair enough, but the character was rolled up anyways. I gave her a simple backstory. Human mother kidnapped by orcs for gross reasons. That was the, DM's idea. She managed to escape, had my character, then my character's father returned, slaughtered the village, but left my character alive because he recognized her mother in the group. Given my character was the only half-orc in the village, he was pretty sure he knew who the father was. Thus, she was part of the horde now. To keep it short, I met the group I'd been playing with, then later introduced my husband to them. Hubby was playing a monk who was kicked out of a monastery after he let his impulses get the better of him. He has to redeem himself by traveling the land and making a comprehensive map for the recluse monks on pilgrimage. We played through a mild orc invasion where I rescued what I thought was an NPC from the camp. Because I was a half-orc, they just let me walk right out, apparently. It turns out later I had rescued the player's DMPC, who happened to be wearing plot armor, hence why I was able to walk out so casually. I figured the plot had to move, and the reason I was given made sense at the time. We get through the first area, which basically consisted of meeting in a tavern, then just deciding to go to the Thieves Guild. There was one player in the group who I will call that rogue. He was kind of that guy, but only after a short time. He was part of the Thieves Guild story-wise and a secret prince. Apparently, the Thieves Guild worked for the royal family. There was a coup and the royal family was dethroned, so the prince was taken into the guild to hide. A member of the guild decided he was going to have a second coup and turned on the prince. This was all done in a conversation between the NPC and the DMPC. So basically, the player was told to shush while the DM talked to himself. After that roleplay section was over, we were told we had to go to a dungeon to get a special item for the prince to regain his throne. It should be mentioned that at this time, the DM told everybody my backstory was different. Now my character was the daughter of an orcish god, and he was calling her to be a paladin. This god was, of course, a character the DM played in an old campaign who just so happened to overthrow and replace the deity for justice reasons. DM then gives everybody magic books that basically worked like the time chamber in Dragon Ball Z. You go in, you hone your skills for what feels like 3 years in there, then come out, except they only gave you levels in your class, and lo and behold, mine was a paladin book. I was told I could choose not to, however, this would leave me as a level 2 cleric in a 5th level party with a challenge rating to match the majority level. I had to take it. That's when that rogue started being a that guy. As well, the DM started to mock my husband anytime he did anything. And I mean anytime. He tried to break out of jail. Well, that was stupid. They were going to let us out because they know the prince is among us. Scout ahead while stealthing, thus making a map for the rest of the party. Why would a cartographer try to make a map? He later decided to play a wizard, and suddenly every encounter was magic resistant. And why would you use your environmental spells to affect the battle? Out of game, the DM was constantly hitting on myself and the other woman at the table. The other gal didn't mind. I did. greatly. This probably explained why he was acting this way towards my husband. He really targeted me a lot for this. That rogue proceeded to fall harder on being that guy as this was happening. It wasn't just hubby though. I was marked for trying to play my character as a cleric over a paladin. DM would outright tell me to just be a paladin. Finally frustrated, I had my character exit the party and just rolled a pure paladin. I tried to give him the backstory of searching for his daughter to reconcile. The daughter had fallen to be neutral evil, and he was trying to save her and bring her back around. DM hated that idea and told me my character would have to either kill or disown his daughter because she was evil now. He also basically hijacked my character so I'd be forced to initiate combat, even if I wanted to prepare ahead of time or avoid an encounter because we weren't ready for it yet. Thus, I'd be forced to start the fight and finish it. I don't know if this is suspicious. If it's true, I won't say for sure, but it felt like he'd fudged the numbers so I got the last hit every time. My paladin was his pet project, his delight, his character. I was just an accessory. Finally, out of game, that rogue came to my place. He asked hubby and I if we noticed how DM was acting. We did. That rogue softly cursed and finally told me why DM wanted me to play a paladin so badly. He wanted to change the alignment of the whole party. As opposed to banning evil characters, he just forced it by adding a paladin. When that rogue saw what DM did with the books, he had enough. He vowed to be the worst player DM had ever seen. He was also not happy with how often the DM was flirting with me, despite me being married. He then asked me if I was comfortable with a little plan he had. He was going to corrupt my paladin. He and another player were conspiring to do this, but wanted my permission first. I told them to go ahead, and I'd come back as the paladin's daughter, looking to avenge her father. It turns out we didn't have to. The DM never hosted any of the games at his house. No, it was at that rogue's house. That rogue had a roommate who DM butted heads with a lot. He would schedule games during that rogue's shift so he couldn't play, as well as trying to override house rules the roommate had made. These weren't unreasonable rules either. It was something like, use an ashtray, open the window while you smoke. You know, reasonable requests. He overstepped big time at one point, and suddenly, D&D was cancelled. Since then, I haven't really found a good group for my husband and I. It was so much of a negative experience that I just felt gross at the whole idea of playing a paladin. But it's not all bad. I decided to sit down and started working on a campaign all my own. I'm waiting for a third player. I'm taking up the mantle of DM with the promise to be better. I'm working on scheduling a game for my hubby and his coworkers. Okay, we have all the stops here. This DM absolutely sucks, but I do want to address real quick. The rogue solution is fun. It's good for the story, but I think we said this in a previous story. Sorry, I record these all on separate days. The rogue solution is fun, but it is not a good solution for actually solving problems. This isn't going to make anything better. And frankly, if you think the DM isn't going to get better, just leave the game. Bail out. Leave. It's better for everyone involved. It's less pain for everyone. I think leaving and, if you want to, putting together a little thing to explain to the DM what they're doing wrong is a good idea. I don't think the rogue's like a bad person by any means, given the fact that the OP didn't describe any horrendous acts from the rogue. I'm pretty sure it was just mostly mild annoying stuff to bother the DM, which again, fun, but if you really want to solve these issues, talk about it out of game. Now, with that being said, obviously the rogue's not the problem. The DM sucks. First and foremost, don't flirt through D&D. It's creepy, it's weird. Don't flirt with people who are married. That's bad. In general, I don't think I need to explain why. I definitely like party allies, NPCs that join the party and help them out, but the DM is playing plot-armored Mary Sue DMPCs, and those aren't fun. When your NPCs are taking the spotlight away from the party, when you're just role-playing with yourself for an extended period of time, and the party are not enjoying it, that is breaking D&D rule number 1. Everyone should be having a good time. Oh right, he also bullied the husband. I mean, yeah, this DM just sucks. He's really annoying. It's not the worst, but damn it, he's really annoying. And honestly, OP, if she's trying to make a better game than this guy, she doesn't have many hurdles to jump over. And that is where we are going to end today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Q&Play series where I answer your questions in a rambly, unscripted format while playing some video games. And while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content right as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you cannot think of a comment, leave the comment a promise to be better to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.